To set up our backup, we need to grab a reservoir, an oxygenator, a tubing pack, a Quest Cardioplegia setup here. If we're using retrograde, we need to grab the Y splitter and the retrograde pressure line with the extra pressure transducer. We will need 2 level sensors, a CDI sensor, and 2 pressure transducers. You also need to come over to this cabinet, remove one of these forms and a blank form from the bottom here. We're going to notate the lot numbers off of the reservoir, the pack, and the Cardioplegia setup, and also a centrifugal head if you're going to be using that. In the beginning you're just going to be using roller heads though. So on the back of the oxygenator you'll note the lot number. Similarly, you'll find one on the pack and on the Cardioplegia. Next, we need to remove the stickers from the CDI sensor, the reservoir, and the Cardioplegia. They just peel off and stick to the front of this sheet. Okay, we're going to inspect the reservoir pack here. We're going to look over it for any signs of any breaking or cracking. Also checking these caps to make sure that they're on properly before we open it. If they're not, you can. If the caps aren't on, you can still use it, but just be careful to keep that stuff sterile as you open it up. We're going to address some lines on the top of the cardiotomy here. I'm going to rotate the venous inlet over here, kind of pull some of these lines out. Remove the oxygenator purge line, and snake it back through this opening here in the oxygenator holder. We're going to come back and we're going to attach this to the right side of the cardiotomy here. We're going to take these lines off the top. This one on the right can just set off to the side. This looped one, we're going to kind of pull these lines out a little bit so that they're laying nicely on top. Pull them off to the back of the reservoir here, and we're going to tape these lines down across the back of the reservoir. We're going to rotate these stopcocks around and make sure this manifold is seated. And if you want, it's kind of a throwback to the old one that we used to have, but I like to still put a piece of tape across this manifold just to make sure that it doesn't pop up. It's not really necessary anymore, but if you like, we're going to open up the pack. Break this green tape here. Open this up. Remove the tubing pack from the top. Okay, you'll notice on all these sterile bags that there are 2 ends. You always want to open the side that comes to sort of a point. So open that. And sometimes there are some loose caps in here, so just try to make sure that you keep everything sterile. Bring the reservoir back in here. We're going to attach a bunch of these stopcocks to the top of the reservoir. I'm going to put one right here. This is going to be where that 60cc syringe will go for adding drugs. So I like to put these on, kind of rotate that, and then spin it around, making sure that it's tight. We're going to put one here on the venous return line. This isn't really used much anymore, but it's occasionally used when we have drugs that we're putting in from an infusion pump or something like that. Down here we have the positive pressure relief valve. This isn't always on here, sometimes there's just a cap, but we're going to remove that. Put a stopcock there. And if it came with one, you can either put that factory one back on, or in the pack here there's this other one that you can put on. Either one will work. Alright, now we're going to put the negative pressure relief valve on. It attaches to this cap, pull that off. The yellow cap comes off, and then make that connection. Alright, in the pack you'll notice there are 4 lines here. One of them is slightly longer than the other 3, but it's also a larger tubing, and it's a lower durometer. It's a little bit more flexible. This is a low pressure line. You're going to find this double-ended cap in here. Remove one of the caps, doesn't matter which one, and also from the double-ended side, and attach that there. Now we're going to come over to the right side of the manifold, remove this connection from the side, and attach the other end of that double-ended connection to the line that you pulled off. Now this free end is going to attach back to the manifold where that line was originally attached. Alright, so we have these 3 lines left. As part of what we grabbed, we've got these 2 pressure transducers here. We're going to open these up. You can discard everything that's in there except for the transducer itself. And we're going to remove this little white cap in the bottom there. Take off the yellow end of these lines and connect that to the transducer. We're going to do the same thing for the other. Okay, we've got one more line left, and this is going to attach to that pressure monitoring bulb. So take a stopcock, and we're going to attach that last line to the bottom of it. So remove the blue cap, the yellow cap, make that connection. Take the pressure monitoring bulb, attaches to the top of the stopcock, and now we're going to take this last 10 cc syringe here, and this is going to come off to the left. And so all you should have left from that initial accessory pack, little tubing pack, are 2 stopcocks. One of them we're going to end up using in the Cardioplegia, the other one is extra. You can either toss it or you can keep it on your pump. You can use it, I just put it on there because it's got caps on it, and these are sterile, so if you need to put a cap on something, you have some extra caps. But here we have the rest of the tubing pack, and in here there's really not a whole lot we need to do. We basically just need to shut a bunch of duraclamps. So this is the priming tubing that you hang the bags from. Some people close these duraclamps, some people leave them open. I clamp them, but these really doesn't matter. You just have to note when you prime the pump whether these are open or not, so that you know whether the fluid's going to start flowing immediately. This blue tubing in here is the vent line. Like I mentioned before, do not clamp that. All the other duraclamps in this whole pack can be clamped, but never clamp that line. We're going to remove this for now and look into the bottom. We're going to clamp the recirculation line. We're just going to remove this little cover off of the venous sat and hematocrit sensor here on the venous return. We're going to tighten up these connections on the pre-bypass filter. We're going to check this stopcock on the recirc line. This is almost always loose. You can see that was loose. So we're going to just tighten that up. You want the stopcock facing you, so it's going to be oriented like that. And we are going to close off this duraclamp that goes onto this ancillary line. This is the wrap line. I don't know if I've mentioned that before, but this is the wrap line. We are going to close that duraclamp there. So that and the recirc line in here, take off that cover, tighten up the connections on the pre-bypass filter. And now this can all be set back in here. All these transducers can go in here. And now we're going to head and do the cardioplegia. So we're going to open up the cardioplegia pack, not all the way, you can just fold this flat back here. We're going to remove the antegrade line, that can go and set in the pack. And I like to take these two pouches, the green and yellow, and I like to attach this stopcock to it right away. You can do it later, but it's just nice to have it kind of already in here. So you're going to put this stopcock on. It's kind of nice to orient these so that they're facing in the same direction. And now that would be it for that if we were just using antegrade, but I have a retrograde set up, so we need this additional Y connector here to split that. So we can go ahead and open that pack up. And you'll see down in the pack here on the right hand side the antegrade line coming down, and then here's the Y connection. We're going to attach the single end to this line here. And just fold that in, set that aside. You can grab your paperwork, set that on top. When you have retrograde, you'll also have this additional pack that you'll have to grab. It's just in a Ziploc bag. It has the retrograde line in it. You just put that in your pack, and it has that last pressure transducer for the retrograde pressure line, and you can just put that in your pack as well. Set that all on top of the cardioplegia. Take your reservoir, set it on top. And then you can, that's really it, but I like to grab my gun ties right away and my level sensors, and I kind of set them off to the side. So I grab 6 gun ties, 5 for the normal connections, and then the 6th one is for that venous line. So I grab 6 of those and just kind of set them off to the side, and that's it. That's how you set up your backup. If it's going to be sitting somewhere for a while, you'll want to cover it in an apron just to kind of keep everything clean and sterile and stuff. Alright, that's how to set up a backup, prime a pump, and set up a pump. So hope that helps you guys out.